The film begins in 1962, on an Italian ocean liner called the Grazia. A singer named Francesca is entertaining the guests, who are enjoying the evening dancing with their loved ones. Amidst the crowd, a little girl named Katie sits alone because she has no dance partner. The ship's captain notices this and takes her to the dance floor. The lively party quickly turns into a nightmare when an unknown hand pulls a lever that tightens a wire. The wire then snaps and whips across the dance floor, cutting passengers and crew in half. Their bodies fall to the floor one by one, creating a bloodbath. The only person who survives on the dance floor is Katie, as the wire could not reach her due to her height. The scene cuts to 40 years later, in the present day. A 6-person rescue team is salvaging a random ship from the sea. Captain Murphy leads his team and successfully brings the ship ashore. The group then goes to a pub to celebrate, where they are approached by an old acquaintance named Jack. Jack also works in the maritime industry and has heard of a ghost ship from 1962. Rumors say the ship contains a chest of gold that has been missing for half a century. Whoever brings the ship ashore can claim what is inside. The team also includes Greer, Santos, Dodge, Munder, and the only woman, Maureen. Interested, the team sets out to search for the ship on their salvage tugboat the next day. After a few hours of travel, they reach their destination, but the tracker shows no ships in the area. They check if it is working properly and conclude that the report was false. When they are about to turn back, they spot a massive commercial ship in front of them. Their boat hits the ship, but fortunately, the impact is not damaging. The large ship leaves the entire crew surprised. After discussing who will go in first, Jack and his crew member Greer stay behind, while the other 4 board the vessel. Seconds after their arrival, the group begins to experience paranormal activities. First, they hear random noises, then see things moving in the dark corners. They blame the wind and keep moving, but behind them, a Scrabble piece moves on its own and spells out the words "Welcome aboard." When they are on the upper deck, Munder goes ahead, but he steps wrong and falls into a hole, luckily saved quickly by Maureen. As she tries to pull him up, the little girl Katie suddenly appears in the background. She disappears in seconds, not giving Maureen a chance to understand if she was real. The incident leaves her uneasy, but she does not tell anyone about it. A little further on, the group discovers a digital clock on the floor. Since these types of clocks did not exist in 1962, they theorize that someone has been on the ship before them. After that, the captain decides to continue the search the next day, as the ship is enormous. When Maureen is alone at night, Jack approaches her. He notices she is tense after saving Munder earlier. Upon discovering the little girl, Jack remains silent for a few seconds. He seems to know something but does not show it. Instead, he suggests Maureen get a few more hours of sleep to get rid of the hallucinations. The next day, the team sits down to plan their next move. They have discovered that the ship is slowly sinking due to damage at its base. They decide to stay in the water for 3 days to repair it and then return to shore with the entire ship. Without wasting much time, they continue their respective work in different parts of the ship. Meanwhile, Maureen explores it and reaches the pool area. She notices bullet marks on the wall, which is strange because they were told all the passengers drowned. As she tries to leave the pool, she again encounters Katie, and startled, she slips and falls. Hitting her head on the floor, she gets injured, and a drop of blood falls into the pool. However, when she looks up, Jack is in the spot where Katie was seconds ago. The two move away without noticing that Maureen's blood is disappearing from the pool. Soon, the bullet holes start gushing blood, and the entire pool fills with blood. After that, Jack and Maureen explore the laundry room and find another door that was not on the ship's plan. When they open it, they are pushed back by a force of water that also brings mutilated bodies out of the locked room. Both Jack and Maureen panic and try to escape. However, the door they came through locks itself, leaving them no option but to go deeper into the ship. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy ends up in the captain's lounge. He finds an open bottle of alcohol, but as he tries to take a sip, he sees the real captain of the ship in the mirror. The glass falls and shatters as Murphy runs away in fright. Unaware of the paranormal activities, Greer is minding his own business when he hears someone singing. It is Francesca, the same performer who was entertaining the passengers aboard in 1962. Greer searches for the source of the sound but gives up after a while. What he doesn't know is that the woman is watching him walk away. Elsewhere, Jack and Maureen find a chest full of gold bars. It's worth millions of dollars that everyone on the crew can take home. Maureen hears something in the next compartment and goes to check. Things are covered with cloths, when suddenly Jack and Dodge scare her by pretending to be ghosts. After the fright, they excitedly gather everyone and show them the treasure. Now, they no longer need to repair the ship and can go home with just the treasure. In the next scene, everyone is loading the gold onto their boat. The mechanic Santos is cleaning the engines to be ready when they decide to leave. However, behind him, something deliberately causes propane to leak from a cylinder, leading to an explosion. This results in Santos' death and the destruction of the boat. Everyone is shocked and saddened by the unexpected death. Moreover, they are now stranded on the ship until they can repair it. Just before the explosion, Maureen had seen Katie again. It was as if she was trying to warn Maureen about the explosion but was interrupted by someone. This is reason enough for Maureen to investigate who Katie is. She goes through the passenger registry and finds her room number. Walking to the room, Maureen screams in shock. It turns out that Katie died by hanging, as her decomposed corpse is still hanging from the ceiling. After composing herself, Maureen approaches and takes a necklace from Katie's corpse. Her spirit appears in the room and asks for the necklace. Maureen tries to hand it over, but it passes through her palm. It is now clear to her that the little girl is not human. In the kitchen, two crew members find fresh meals. They don't question it before devouring half the food. Initially, it tastes incredible, but after a while, they smell something awful. Upon checking, they see the food has turned into maggots. Both panic and start vomiting in disgust. The scene shifts to Greer, who is in the ballroom. However, suddenly the whole place transforms to how it was before the shipwreck. The guests surround him and act as if they are at a typical party. Moreover, Francesca seems to have a special interest in him. She flirts with the guy and manipulates him into kissing her, even though he has a fiancée waiting for him at home. After the kiss, he is too involved to turn back. Francesca starts undressing while he follows, hoping to end up in her room, but instead, he falls from a high platform and dies. This is a metaphor for where betrayal leads in life. The beautiful woman then shows her real deformed face. Meanwhile, Murphy is in the captain's room when suddenly a bottle of alcohol starts moving on its own. He watches it closely and then finds the ship's captain sitting in front of him. The man offers Murphy a drink, to his disbelief. The captain is not there to hurt him but to talk. He tells Murphy about a lost ship called Lorelei 40 years ago. When everything fell apart, the ship Lorelei was found by the Grazia, the ship they are on now. But 2 days after finding the lost ship, the Grazia also disappeared. Having said that, Murphy is handed a photo that shocks him. Meanwhile, Katie and Maureen are also talking in her room. The little girl reveals that everyone who died on the ship 40 years ago has been trapped there ever since. They cannot go to heaven because someone powerful is holding them to the ship. Now, the only way for them to be freed is if the ship is destroyed. Before Katie explains who the powerful person is, the walls of the room start changing color. She panics and orders Maureen to flee before disappearing. Back in the pool area, Murphy is looking for the rest of the crew. He has finally figured out the truth about the ship's disappearance and wants to return to shore as quickly as possible, but on the way, he is disturbed and frightened by the spirit of the late Santos. The hallucination seems so real that when Maureen approaches him, Murphy thinks she is also Santos' ghost. He attacks her and does everything he can to end her life. Maureen somehow manages to stab him in the foot and save herself. Then, Jack arrives and knocks Murphy out. For their own safety, they place him in an emptied fish tank and lock him inside. Now, the group doesn't care about the gold and just wants to return to land. They continue repairing the ship for the next few hours and finally finish. As Greer has not yet returned from the lobby area, everyone is worried. While the guys do a final check, Maureen goes to look for him. She once again encounters Katie, who shows her Greer's dead body. This time, the girl is determined to show Maureen everything that happened on the ship 40 years ago. She touches Maureen and takes her to the past. The ship is lively with people's conversations and laughter, but what they don't know is that the co-captain convinced the entire crew to kill everyone on board for the gold they had previously found. The cooks mixed rat poison with the food, killing most of the people. Then, the massacre on the dance floor occurred. The remaining survivors were shot in the pool. Poor Katie was dragged to her room and hanged to death. Finally, the crew members rushed to the treasure and started taking what they could, but the co-captain didn't allow it. Joining Francesca, he killed them all. Eventually, only the two of them were left before Francesca betrayed him and shot him in the head. It turns out her true lover was another man, who was also the mastermind behind the whole massacre. After killing hundreds of people, they shared a passionate kiss, but the surprises didn't end there. The man killed Francesca by releasing a hook that impaled her neck and left her hanging. In the end, the man is revealed to be none other than Jack. He is a demonic spirit of a dead sinner. His job is to make people sin and then kill them to take their souls to hell. Everything makes sense to Maureen now because Jack was the one who told them about the ship in the first place. He also appeared out of nowhere when Maureen saw Katie in the pool. Furthermore, he had been asking her to forget Katie every time she told him about her. Maureen suddenly remembers Murphy, but when she finds him, he has already drowned and died in the aquarium. She quickly goes to the others to warn them about the killer on board. Munder is diving in the flooded engine room to fix something. She wants to follow him, but the water pipes turn red with blood, indicating that Munder is also dead. Now, the only people left are Maureen, Dodge, and Jack himself. Maureen asks Dodge to keep an eye on Jack while she goes to place explosives on the ship. Moments later, when Dodge and Jack are alone, Jack messes with his head and starts a fight. In a fit of rage, Dodge shoots him and believes Jack is dead. He then goes to Maureen, who has just set the explosives. He tells her he killed Jack and that they can start a life together using the gold. Maureen thinks about it for a second and then asks why he didn't ask about Munder, who is yet to be found. It is then revealed that the person is actually Jack, who is trying to make Maureen sin. As long as this ship remains, the souls will never be freed. Jack knows that Maureen is a good person, so he offers to spare her life in exchange for not interfering with his rules, but in response, Maureen detonates the explosives. Jack and the entire ship are blown to pieces as Maureen dives underwater and saves her life. She then struggles to find a way out when Katie appears and comes to her rescue, showing her the exit. Finally, all the good souls who were killed on the ship are freed for eternal rest. The next morning, a cruise ship finds Maureen floating in a crate and rescues her. As she is being taken to the ambulance, she notices crates of gold being loaded onto a cruise ship. Jack cannot be killed and plans to continue the cycle of making people sin for pleasure and greed. The film ends with Maureen screaming and the ambulance door closing, unable to alert them to the danger that awaits.